before we go into the topic, we should all have a round of introductions. So who are we? What do we do? And say something about you as a person. So let's go through. So Andrei, who are you?
Yeah, thank you, Jenni. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrei. I'm 25, currently studying in the Business Academy. And just a few words about my project. So during the course of my studies, I did a couple of projects, starting with some mobile app. Then we were developing actually I was alone developing the VR game. And now we are with my brother working on another app. Also with Jenni, we are hosting the podcast. So I hope that we will talk about some of the projects of mine and of yours, and generally about the hustling. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Antti, 24, and thank you for coming, all of you. And quick introduction, you probably know me, many of you, but yeah, I'm studying in Business Academy. I've been there for, I think, 1.5 years, and yeah, a little bit of entrepreneurship during that time has been my main thing that I do. And yeah, originally from Lappeenranta, now I live here in Joensuu, which is nice. Thank you.
And of course, last but not least, my name is Niko Lindfors. I work here in a startup I established with a bunch of my friends after graduation. I am a Karelia alumni. I've studied from 2015 until 2019, and I also work as the chair and CEO of US. And I was the host of last year's event for Polku, and this year I've been here helping out and giving some advice for a new team to make a great event. So it's an honor to be here.
Thank you. And also, my name is Jenni Meesit. I am currently studying 3rd year in Karelia, doing my BBA, so business of bachelor's degree. Before I went in my work life, I actually was in military for 1 year. I had work background in sales. I've been at Apploy in B2B customer service. And nowadays, I feel like I'm more in the marketing field, like in my studies overall. But yeah, like Andrei already said, we have done podcasts together, so apply for it. It's a business theme podcast for business-minded people. But yeah, what else? I'm 22, so probably the youngest in this panel. But yeah, now we have all introduced ourselves, and I would like to get into the topic by giving some definitions of what hustling could mean. So I found that definition 1 could be that the word hustle means that you work hard. It means that you work hard every single day. It means you do the things other people won't do, and you do them with a sense of joy and purpose because you love it. That's one. Another one is, if someone hustles, they try hard to earn money or to gain advantage from a situation. So do you agree, does this ring to you, like hustling, or is there a different definition to you guys?
I think you presented pretty good definitions, and I agree with that. Actually, I did some homework, and I also constructed my definition, if you let me introduce that. So I think hustle, and also in the context of that discussion, might be a low effort but high profit activity that can be established utilizing existing resources. I'm gonna say a few words about that. So by low effort, I mean that, well, if you want to get a full-time job, or if you want to build, Talk Money, for example, that's not a side hustle. That's a side hustle because that's a pretty damn big thing, right? But if you want to launch some website and you want to sell something on that, can be considered as a hustle, in my opinion, because that's pretty small. Also, by high profit, I mean that so you can utilize your skills or the resources that you already have and do something with that. So you don't have to learn a whole new skill or get a whole new profession or degree to do that. So you just utilize the current skills that you have, then you add something to that, your networks or something else, and then you start some project. It can be like money project, or again, in the context of that discussion, that might be a podcast. Because I think, especially for students, it's much easier to start projects that do not involve so much money, because when you're a student, it's much better to learn things than to start earning money, I think.
Yeah, I actually largely agree. I definitely like the element of value, and of course, actually doing something that's worth doing, of course. And well, I mean, at least in the context of my own life, when I look at what hustling would mean for me, at least for myself, I've basically outlined it as finding something to do with your time, because I think last night or last evening, the last speaker told us that the most valuable asset we all have is time. And the fact that you can actually make use of it effectively is one of the most important things you can do over the course of your life. So I think, at least for me, it's definitely been making use of my time and not trying not to burn out. Of course, I have lots of ideas what to do, but limited resources to actually do them.
I think those were very good points. For me, the word hustling means like working very hard. Of course, then there is the word side hustle, which means a little bit like it's like a thing you do to earn money, which is not the main thing you do, but the thing that you do aside your main thing. But yeah, for me, hustling means like trying to achieve something very hard. Usually, in this context, it's probably like trying to earn money through different projects and stuff. So yeah.
Great. So now we are basically on the same page, like what hustling means. But could you do you have any examples, like what is your hustle, like what does it look like? What do you guys do in your free time that you consider hustle? It doesn't have to be money generating, or is it actually?
Again, in the concept of that discussion, I think a good example might be our podcast, because it didn't start as a money-making project, but it started as something we both wanted to do, and we started a podcast. And you might ask, what is the benefits of doing a podcast? What like kind of values does it bring us to us? And again, I think that money is just one of the things that you can get doing your side hustle. For example, I think you mentioned a few times that people started recognizing you, started talking with you because you are a podcaster, right? Maybe you got some professional benefits because you had a podcast. Yeah. So I think that can be one of the examples. Niko, sure.
Yeah, I actually agree entirely. I think money is just one element, because this is one of the things that, at least in my life, has been highlighted quite well, which is that when I look at what I want to do with my time, money tends to be very low on the actual value scale for me. Because at least for me, it's knowledge, skills, and experiences that I'm looking to accumulate over the course of my experiences. Especially now that I work in a small company where the competence of the individual really is highlighted. If you don't know what to do and you haven't had the time to go through terrible experiences and failures, it's a ruthless environment for it. So if you do have the opportunity to do something, I would highly recommend going for knowledge, skills, and experiences before money.
Yeah, like adding to Andrei's, you said you might not get straight, like doing podcasting, you don't get money straight from it, but like that was a great example, because I remember that at some point when I told you that when we had done podcasting, I actually got like a small side hustle gig out from it. So I was doing someone had called me, they knew that I was doing a podcast, and I actually got an invitation to do an ad. So we shot like a video ad, and it was funny because these people had never seen me in real life and I had not seen them. But thanks to the podcasting, where they heard like, what do I sound like? How do I speak? What my English is like? I got through that, like a money-making gig. So therefore, it kind of generated me some money. So, how about you?
I think it's very interesting that you brought up that hustling or side hustle doesn't necessarily mean something that you earn money with, at least at the beginning, but like develop your knowledge and skills. And So what kind of hustling have I done during the course of my life? Well, now that you brought up the point that it doesn't mean necessarily like anything like which means earning money straight away, at least. If we go back like 2 years ago or maybe 3, I tried very hard to learn to sing during my free time. And I took all these courses and I did it like every day. And then at some point when I joined Business Academy, my days got so filled with studies and work, because I also started to work in this company where I work at Mantsinen, and I just don't have any energy to learn to sing anymore, which means that all the hustling that I do that I've done during the past, I think like 1 year or a couple of like maybe half a year, a little bit of extra of that, I think it's like all these projects inside of the Business Academy studies. Like, for example, in the beginning of January, with the encouragement of my friend Andrei, who is sitting here, I started my own project in which I offered a service for companies to enter the e-commerce market in Russia. So what I did was basically I translated stuff to Russian language for them and figured out the logistics and all the stuff regarding the e-commerce world. That's what I did or tried to do. I think it was a bit slow beginning. It also was very hard because I had to do it alone for the most part, which I learned is not the most fun way to hustle, in my opinion. Okay, I will not eat the mic. So I did that e-commerce service thing to Russia, and also Russia then did what they did to Ukraine, and now it's impossible to do that project anyway, unfortunately. And after that, I've been part of this marketing project, doing content creation and website building for an event. And yeah, those are the things that I've done apart from my work that I do every day.
I just wanted to bring one more example. So we are developing the website with my brother, and because of that, I've learned a few design, or actually developed my design skills further. And at some point, I realized now I actually can do websites, but I can do that for other people, like for our clients. And now we are doing one more project with another friend. We are trying to build websites for clients, obviously. But the thing is that I didn't learn how to build websites for clients in the first place. But the original goal was different. But now I realized that, I have that skill that I can utilize to just make more money, or just to have fun, or just to gain more experience about design and whatever. So I think that's the example of, like, you can think what I already know how to do, or what experience I already have, and how can I utilize that. Also, I wanted to say that as a media student, I've heard a few times that people said that I don't want to do work for free. People saying that, okay, I don't want to shoot photography. I don't want to take pictures or videos for free. I want clients to pay me. And I think that was ridiculous because, like, first of all, you're a student. Yeah, you might have some follow on Instagram or whatever. But again, you're just a student. You're no name right now, but you can build your name. And the way you do that is not by every time asking for money, but to establishing your reputation by doing free work, but greatly, at least in my opinion. So I really encourage people to do free work, but do it greatly. And if you do something for free, like Polku event is free, we're all volunteers here, it doesn't mean that you have to do it like badly. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think just the kind of doing free work, I think the concept is very loose and open. I feel like, at least because I've done a lot of free work, I think the idea is more, at least the way that I would view it, is that fair compensation for your work can be a lot more than just money. But of course, if you, like, for the photography is perfect. So there are unlimited amounts of photographers who do work for exposure, which is not fair compensation in many cases. But then being able to, like, put your work into a portfolio, or having a larger audience for your work, or being able to be promoted in the credits of a show or something like this is an unbelievably valuable experience, not only for the exposure itself, but also as a reference, being able to work in a larger project as well. And I think even to sum up some of the things that you've said, which also obviously applies to me, is that I think the theme that connects all of this is that you absolutely just want to do things. You don't want to stand still and wait for the world to happen to you, because when you do things, you go out and you show your face and you talk about what you do and what you can do. You never know who you're going to bump into. I think that's one of the great things about an event like Polku as well. You never know who you're going to bump into in an event like this. Because at least we already know that at least the one thing we share in common is that we kind of like entrepreneurship, or we're interested in it in some ways.
Yeah, like from the discussion, I really like how we all kind of had very similar elements. Like you brought up the more when you do hustling projects, like in your case, it was you designed something for the customers and so on, and you do work so you get more reference. They all help you build your name and kind of make you more, how do you say, trusted. And that's a very good, because when you have the ability to just do those things, you get better at it, and when the actual day comes, hey, you might get paid for it. It's easy to do. Next question, I was thinking what are the things that hustling might have enabled you to do? So you already said you developed your skills, but is there any have you had more opportunities from it? Have you been able to travel or something like that from hustling?
Yeah, I actually am in a lucky enough position to say that I think iOS has been one of the largest individual things that I've been able to do. When I started my studies in 2015 in Karelia, I think one of the first organizations that really sparked an interest in me was iOS. And ever since then, I feel like the society has been able to do a pretty good job of not only bringing interesting content, but also opportunities to learn actual concrete skills and being able to do things that I never thought I would have the opportunity to do. I've gotten to host the first event of my life. I've gotten to do a keynote speech at one of these events. I've gotten to host Polku in its entirety. And of course, I have the honor to be here today, which are simply things that would not exist if, well, not only was I excited about the idea, but I also put myself out there. I wanted to figure out, can I do something with this? And people around me encourage you to do things, which is something that it's very hard to come by, to get people who are genuinely excited for your success.
Like Niko said, being invited in this panel has been one of the things which I guess came from hustling. But for me, I don't have had any that big, very concrete things that I can call as opportunities. But I think, for example, through the projects that I've done, I've met people who are in the business world and who I've done work for. I think networking with those people is an opportunity in itself. Maybe in the future something else will happen with them. And also the friends. I think the most important thing which has come out of this whole thing in being part of this Y-Akatemia studies and doing this entrepreneurship stuff, all these projects, is the people that I've met. I think it's the best thing. And the more people you know, the better your network, the more you do stuff with them, the more opportunities obviously will open. But yeah, I think that's for me.
Definitely expanding your network is one of the huge benefits. Just one example, during Polku, I don't know, I've sent it a few sponsorship agreements and a few agreements for our speakers. So, but that means that I've met them. I've sent the message, so they now know me. But probably the biggest, the thing I remember the best is that before the day before the event, because if you guys remember, we started with Joensuu mayor's speech. I don't know if you know, but Joensuu mayor was speaking first. And the day before, he messaged me, he sent me an email like, what is it about, or something like that. So can you give me more information about that? And I've sent it to them, and he was thanking me. So like, how else could I meet the Joensuu mayor or get his message thanking me? That's really cool, like example of just being part of Polku. I got a message from Joensuu mayor thanking me. That was really cool. So yeah, definitely expanding networks is really beneficial. And also, I'd like to add that sometimes you can start by thinking like, what things I'd love to do, or what skills I want to learn. For example, the English speaking club that we started some time ago, I think is the example that we just wanted, at least I just wanted to practice that. Yeah, sure, we can bring more people to that. But the original idea was that I can practice the things I like, which is public speaking, and I just can invite more people there. So you just started.
So can you tell, so what is English club exactly?
Yeah.
Speech club.
Now it's called Speech Lab, yeah, sure.
Yes.
So basically the idea is that we just gather together and we practice public speaking, giving presentations in front of people. It just started with 3 of us, and then we get more people involved, and it's cool. So, but I mean, the main point here is that it started from our own desire to practice public speaking. So, yeah.
Now that you mentioned the mayor, I have also like maybe a little funny story, because I did this marketing project during the last spring, and part of that marketing project was to interview business people around here in Joensuu. And one of them was Harry Bruman, who is, I'm not sure about his title, the exact title, but anyway, Bruman Group, Harry Bruman, probably everybody knows him. And we got to interview him, but I actually so I had this opportunity, okay, I'll go to his office, like his own office, with my friend who I did the project with, and we ask him questions, we film a video. So yeah, it's like an opportunity to like have a discussion and yeah, expose yourself to him, like in a good way, like to tell that you exist. And but the funny part is that I actually had to skip it and I never met him, but my friend met him. Yeah, anticlimactic, I know, but it just came to my mind. But yeah, that's an opportunity that I unfortunately didn't use, but things that like that open up when you do stuff. So do stuff.
Yeah. I also like when we talk about what do we get from like hustling, and so you said about like how we meet people, and those are like opportunities itself. I totally agree. Why I think it's awesome is that for me, I think when we meet cool people, we learn cool stuff. It's like that those areas just bring me a lot of joy. And why do I think that joy is very important while hustling is that when we feel joy while doing something productive, like let's say you do digital art and you sell or something, but when you feel joy, the learning process, the curiosity is so much bigger than you're just doing it. It's like I think it's like enhanced learning. So in my opinion, hustling with joy, it just maximizes your learning and therefore productivity in general. So that's like one thing, maybe more abstract part of it. But it was really good that we got like a lot of good concrete examples of people, places, opportunities, and skills and so on. So the next question, so even though we feel like hustling brings us good and great things, do you think that it can sometimes cause conflicts? And is there, while hustling, any conflicts and risks while you're doing it during studying? So,
Yeah, sure. I think I can start with with an example. So when I just got in Korea University and I noticed there is a draft program, and I immediately wanted to participate in that, and I sent the application and stuff. But then at some point, I had to skip my classes, and that was causing conflicts because I wanted to do my stuff, but also I wanted to study, and that's why I got some. And also, there was an event where I wanted to participate in my project. So as a media student, we have to participate in the event, and I wanted to do that with my own project, but it was much more challenging than just get into the event. So eventually, I just got not so good grades for that course because I wanted to do it like the more difficult way, but the more fun for me. So yeah, definitely sometimes it can cause challenges and sometimes bad grades and stuff like that. But obviously, I think the solution to that is to try to combine your studies and your kind of projects or side hustles. For example, if you have a task, well, probably for business students, it's easier. But imagine that you have a task to come up with a business idea. And then if you consider that as an actual potential project, you can come up with a business idea and then participate in the draft program, which can support you by giving you money. So you take your actual assignment from school, but you just try to get the maximum out of it. So balancing between them, but also trying to combine them, I think the perfect solution.
Yeah, I'd say that one of the things that I've learned over the course of the last 3 to 5 years, I'd say, is that doing things that you love and doing things you find fun, it can be unbelievably deceptive. I've had to struggle with burnout multiple times over the course of the last 3 years. I appreciate it. Not necessarily because the job that I'm doing is terrible or it demands too much of me, but because I don't know when to stop. Because when you get to do things that you love, which is why I have a company with my friends and which is why I do want to be in US, there's so much to do. There's an impossible amount of things actually to do, especially when the team is small. But you have to, or the thing you kind of learn to do is that you have to prioritize, and you do have to take some time to yourself just to step away from the things you're doing. And I think one of the things that I would highly recommend having is you need outside help. You need a support group, essentially. Someone who kind of looks at your life from the outside and is able to tell you that you're not feeling good when you can't see it yourself. So that would have been a big help 3 years ago, but obviously you live and you learn. So I have those people in my life right now. So hopefully I'm not burning out again this year, next year.
I've also had these conflicts like on how to use my time, because if I say yes to everything, every project, everything that someone asks me to do, I would probably end up burning out.
Yeah, and I would 100% say that success also isn't linear. I think at least the fear that I had when I was a student in Karelia was that I fear that once I graduate, I'll have nothing to do. But then as soon as you actually go out in the world and you do one project and they invite you to do another project and they'll invite you to do 3 projects and then they'll invite you to do 6 projects and then you burn out. There are being able to be out and available and for people to know who you are and what you can do, there's an unlimited amount of things to do. Right now in Finland, every year, 10,000 people more exit the workforce compared to how many people enter the workforce. There's so much stuff to do. Every single organization needs help. But hiring help and getting the help at the right time and knowing who to get into your organization is unbelievably difficult. So it's hard.
Yeah, at that point, I think I would love to add that if your studies or getting degree conflicts with your desire to do stuff, I think you really should think like, like, what is the purpose of studying anyways? Like, why I'm trying to get this degree? Because if there's something that you just have to do, if you just have a few assignments that you have to do, but you don't really like them, like essays or whatever, and then you have, on the other hand, you have your own side hustle that you really love to do. Like, again, what is the purpose of the whole process of getting a degree? Is it just that you have this paper? I think, like, just, you might disagree, but in my opinion, the biggest mistake that you can make as a student is to set graduation as your main goal. If your goal is just to graduate, like of course you will hate like all the essays because they're like, it's boring, you have to read books, whatever. But if your goal is not graduation, but being a master or an expert in something that you choose, for me, that's probably product design. For you, it might be business or marketing. If your goal is to be an expert in marketing, then you can get your assignments or like adjust that in the way that you like it. If you have to read books, read about marketing. If you have to essays, read about that. And then again, it's much easier to combine with side hustles because you have this kind of master goal, becoming an expert in marketing, let's say, and then you just adjust everything in your life according to that, and that's bringing you joy.
Yeah, I agree. I think the knowledge, skills, and experiences mindset that at least I had over the course of my studies was probably the reason why I actually wanted to finish my studies. I felt like the things that I got to do in school are opportunities that you don't really get to do as a private citizen. And being able to combine those studies with the hobbies that I want to do and with the other projects that I want to kind of do in a way that they also support each other, as you mentioned earlier. I think having to do the same project 3 times for 3 different courses is ludicrous. There's no reason to do it like that. But yeah, it's I would, again, I think the debate obviously probably happens between the public and the private sector. I'd say the public sector probably values the titles and the pieces of paper more than the private sector does, at least the small business side, where it seems that they don't care what you've done in school. Obviously, it's nice if you've gone because it shows that you can like commit to a 3-year project or a 5-year project. But at the end of the day, when you walk into a job interview, rarely have I ever heard anyone say that, hey, do you have a degree? They'll ask, what can you do?
Very interesting points. And I want to add, when you mentioned that, like once you do 1 project and then you get offered to do 6 projects, then 16, and then you burn out or whatever. So if you ever happen to be in that fortunate, like it's quite fortunate situation in life, and then you figure out what you really want to do, then at that point it's probably like a very good opportunity to learn to say no to things that don't serve you. So it's like some of you may have heard of this thing of like if someone offers you to do something, it's either like a hell yeah or no. So if you're like, hell yeah, I want to do that, then do it. But if you are like, I don't know if I should do this project or not, then you should probably say no. I think I've heard about this from the internet somewhere. So I think it's a pretty good way to think about this stuff.
Yeah, and I also think that if you are in a lucky enough position to have plenty of opportunities come to you, there's also one of the things you can do at that point is to ask yourself, can I build something here? Because at the end of the day, building the majority of businesses is that you have more demand than you actually have supply. Then you can get 1 or 2 or 3 of your mates to kind of make a team. And you can actually grab onto the opportunities that one of you or all of you are able to bring in to the organization. It's a great way to start. Somebody knows who you are.
By the way, you said something about when we do a hustling, we should prioritize by asking ourselves a question like whether it is either a hell yes or no, but what if almost everything feels like everything could be hell yes? What do you do at that point then?
Then you have to think, what is like hell yes or whatever? Because you have only so many hours in the day, you cannot do everything. Or maybe you can, I don't know. Not you necessarily, but anybody who gets opportunities. So you have to really think about which is the most interesting of these things that I'm offered to do and do it. Then maybe do the another one, which is like second most interesting. But if everything feels very, very interesting and you want to do all of it, maybe you can maybe try out, then burn out, and then see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that I think the unfortunate part of reality is that life's going to catch up. At some point, when you have 5 hell yeah projects, it's you're going to burn out. And unfortunately for many people, it is the only way to learn when you've gone over your capacity. Because it's easy to sit here and say that only do as much as you can. What does that mean? Nothing. So you do have to kind of figure out your own capacity when it comes to work, and hopefully do it before you're in your bed crying because you can't get up and you don't want to get up.
And so now answering the questions, what kind of conflicts and risks there are like in hustling. I totally agree. Like there's such a high risk of getting burnouts. Like we already talked. Like if you are the type of a person who like sets lots of goals, like very strictly, you already know what you want to do. So then you're more likely to do to progress to getting your goals. And if you're very ambitious, you put even more fuel doing that to get there. And I think that brings another problem where when you know what you want and you see more opportunities, then you're more like, how do you say, you have more tendency to say yes, and that brings the there are more and more those hell yes opportunities. And I have to agree, I have had like myself also like one burnout because exactly of these reasons why, like you guys said. How did you think about like this hustling? So you already had ideas like why it brings you joy, what risks there are, and you have now done so. But how hustling has changed you as a person or your worldviews?
I have never had a burnout, and I hope I will never have one. But I think I usually say yes to every project. I can say yes, and many of them are not hell yes projects, but they're like cool projects. But how I see that is that I want to do as much as I possibly can, even though I might feel like stressed or really tired or whatever. So probably the biggest thing that changed in me because of doing projects is just that I have learned how to overcome that kind of, it's like in sports, how to overcome that feeling that I'm tired or I don't want to do anything. Like in sports, you're running a marathon, you're basically obviously tired at some point, and you feel like I can't do it anymore, but then you continue. And of course, it's good if you can find joy in that process. If you feel tired, but you can find joy in that, and then it's been better. But yeah, probably like the ability to work even though if it's hard, because probably 90% of work it's hard or unpleasant, but because there's like 10% of like really joyful things, it makes sense. Sure.
Yeah, I think there's like 2 things I think that come to mind when it comes to how it's changed me. I think it's always so much easier to lay in bed and watch a movie instead of going out and doing things that are hard. And in order to get up and to want to get up, you do need something that matters. And I feel like when you look at the 2 main ways you can live your life, either proactively or reactively, the unfortunate fact of living a reactive life is that essentially the world gives you opportunities that you don't get to decide, and you kind of sometimes you have to pick from 3 bad options, which is something that you want to do. But kind of being able to, or wanting to be proactive and getting up when you don't know what to do allows you to build your own opportunities instead of waiting for the world to happen to you, which allows you to then kind of get closer to the meaning of doing stuff that actually matters to you and not just the stuff you have to do because you had nothing else to do. But again, it's challenging. It really is.
I think I have become lazier in a good way, because when I have had a lot of stuff to do, work, these projects, maybe some other stuff as well regarding studies, you have, like, I've never had this kind of situation in life where I could theoretically like work for like 24 hours every day. No, I could not, but like 12, let's say 16 hours a day, and like the tasks, they would not end ever. Like, if we go 4 years back, I had this only the coursework to do in school, or 3 years back, and that was it. I found much more time to do other stuff like sports, running a lot and stuff. Now that I have all this other stuff, I don't put so much effort, for example, I don't know, in free time activities. Like, I do them just to relax, to wind up the brain, you know? I don't try hard in every part because it's impossible. I try hard only in like 1 or 2 things, and then I understand that I need quite a lot of relaxation and relaxing activities. So I think in that sense I became lazier. So then now I try to direct my energy only to very few things, because I know that I have only so much energy every day.
I was thinking, like, is the reason, like, so you said, like, you feel you might have more, like, increased need for relaxation, because now when you do a lot of hustling, and like we already talked about, like, if you do things that you really care about, I think that kind of drains energy. So could this be the case that when you do hustling, even though yes, sometimes you become lazier when you do intense hustling, but could this mean that if you do intense hustling, you have the more bigger need for relaxation? Or any of you, do you see this kind of phenomenon happening in your life, possibly?
Yeah, I think when you do things, you kind of passively increase your capacity to do things. But I also think that even in Antti's case, I think calling yourself more lazy kind of undersells the actual value you're doing to yourself, which is kind of understanding that I need X amount of rest between doing stuff that actually matters. I think you're not being lazy. You actually are one step closer to understanding where your limits and capacity currently is and whether or not you want to develop from there. I think it's a valuable lesson.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe I'm not lazier, maybe I'm just smarter regarding the energy usage. So you asked, can you repeat the question? Like, you asked, like, has the hustling
changed you as a person?
Oh yeah.
Like, that's the original. Now sometimes I have sidetracked questions.
Yeah, the sidetrack question was like, what was it? I forgot. You told increased capacity to do stuff.
So, like, have you, any of you noticed, like, when you get really passionate maybe with hustling, so you put more energy in it, like, have you noticed that it kind of drains you more and you need more rest?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I think for me it has been like I spent much more time on my computer with my laptop, with these hustles, with all this side projects, whatever. And the more I am with my laptop working, it means that I'm using like my brain and stuff, and my brains need a lot of rest. So I think now that I spend like many hours a day on my computer, I think that I'm not sure if the capacity has increased to do any, but the need for not being in front of the screen, but the need to go to Kuhasalo with my friends on a campfire, that need has increased a lot. And basically like exercising every day and stuff like that. So I think also that kind of activity probably increases capacities to some extent, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about increasing capacity, but you bring an interesting point. So if you start feeling tired in front of your computer, so yeah, sure, the first option is to do some really like the opposite activity, to go into the forest. But another way to see that is that, can I somehow improve or make sitting in front of a computer more joyful? So how can I increase that? Maybe something around me can change. So I do the same activity, but something around me can change. Like working in different places, working in cafeterias, it's much, at least for me, it's much more pleasant than working just in the office. So yeah, again, we come to the question, what is work? And when it comes to hustles, again, you can start thinking like, what kind of things, like what kind of joyful things I can do that can also be converted into some other benefits. Like, yeah, let's continue.
And also, I have a question for you, Andrei. So basically, what I've known Andrei like for now 2 years, I don't understand how like we are in a way we're very similar people. Like we do our own hustling with passion, and in our case, it's kind of a little bit different. But how do you do you have any ideas like how do you cope with being stressed for possibly from hustling? And so like how do you wind down or deal with it? Because you seem to be so calm guy most of the time, or is it true?
Yeah, well, that's a big question. But I mean the stress and whatever. But shortly, well, that's maybe just me. But I really rarely feel stressed. All I feel is that, all right, I have a situation and I have to do something about it. It's more like being a soldier, but my battlefield is not the actual battlefield, but it's like hustling projects. So I have that situation, but as a soldier, I have to do some job. As a sniper, I have to sit in the same place for 4 days or whatever, and I have to do that because like there is like a major goal, a master goal, and I just perform what I have to do. That's my way to do that. But yeah, I really rarely feel stressed. Well, what about Niko?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I learned after almost burning out for the second time during one of my projects was that I realized that you can only try your best. Because after trying your best, there's nothing more you can do. And if you can actually sit down in your chair and say to yourself that you've tried your best, that's all you can do. And I absolutely agree with the mentality you kind of said, that you see the world for what it is and you know you have to do something and you go from there. I think it's a great tool to move forward, especially because stress in many cases is you worrying about stuff that most likely or will not ever happen in your entire life. But just keeping your head down and keep going forward could help. But obviously, from time to time, you should probably stop and look around and where life has actually taken you. And when to keep going and when to stop and look around is another difficult question. When is the right time to do that? I don't know.
If I ever stress about stuff, usually it helps if you put things into perspective, like what is important in life. I think, yeah, all these projects, they're important, but there are much more important stuff. I don't know, like family, and everybody are healthy in the family. So once in a while, it's maybe good to visit your parents or grandparents and then just spend time with them, and then maybe that will help to put things into perspective, and maybe you will worry about all this stuff that's happening to you. And also just sitting down and get stuff done is maybe the main tool to get rid of the stress which happens in everyday life.
Okay, so the next question was that if you say hustler, Like, let's say the best hustler in the world, who comes to your mind, and what do they look like or are like?
I'm really happy you asked, because I was thinking about two people that I didn't know when should I say that. So the first guy, probably the most kind of common definition of hustler is a Jordan Belfort. If you have seen the movie The Wolf from Wall Street, that's the guy. That's the movie about Jordan Belfort. Yeah, but he's kind of a bad guy, right? All the drugs and whatever prostitutes. But anyways, that's the definition of a hustler in a common way. But there is one more kind of, for me, it's the hustler icon. Like when I think about that guy, that's like the example. The best TV show in the world, and you all like know that, is Rick and Morty. And Rick is the actual example for me of a hustler. So there's a few things about the Rick. If you haven't seen the TV show, basically Rick is a scientist, and he has his grandson Morty, and they just travel around the galaxy doing some crazy things, meeting different creatures from other galaxies. One of the main things about the TV show is that there is an infinite number of galaxies and universes. So basically, there is like an infinite amount of Andreis, of Jenni, and whatever. So, and that means that you can do whatever. You can just have your clone. Anyways, to not make it complicated. So the thing is that Rick is every day doing some adventures with his grandson, but he's super smart, and every day he just come up with something that he requires utilizing his current skills, like scientific skills, to build like some machine to travel between different worlds and whatever. So he utilizes his own skills and then do some crazy things, crazy adventures that makes him more smarter and brings fun. So Rick from Rick and Morty, definitely.
Yeah, I don't like the traditional meaning of hustler in media. So I am aware of many people who I would probably classify under the title of hustler, but I don't like any of them. At least in my own life, I rather pursue meaning and purpose when it comes to business instead of trying to change the world and do things that matter. I think the traditional meaning of hustler is taking money from people who don't understand what's happening, unfortunately.
I think there are like three people that come to my mind. But if I mention one who's like number one, who first came to my mind, the best hustler, I think it's this filmmaker named Casey Neistat, who has been quite successful on YouTube or whatever, making films. And I think why he's my favorite hustler, in a sense, is because he is a guy from USA, New York City area, I think, Connecticut or whatever. And then he got his girlfriend pregnant when he was like 16. So he got a son that early on, and he didn't have any education. And he washed dishes for his main hustle, so to say. And then he moved to New York and bought a camera, bought a computer, and started to make films. I think, and he, after many, many years, became quite successful. He actually ran an IT company. He had an mobile app, and he sold it for $25 million, I think. And for me, he's like first of all, yeah, it's quite like a from rags to riches story, whatever. But also, like he's also like a family guy. He has kids, and he spends a lot of time with his kids. So he's not completely like only work, but like work, family. And he also seems to be leading relatively like a healthy lifestyle, doing exercise and stuff. But I think that came to my mind. And also, I'm going to mention these Mantsinen brothers. The company that I work at is Mantsinen, and it was founded in 60s here in this North Karelia area. And there were like two brothers from very, very like a rural and not so rich background or whatever. And they also did like basic logistics work, like years. And at some point they decided to create machines, material handling machines, and then just like developing their, like a constant development of the equipment that you have, that you do work with every day. And now it's quite like a big enterprise or whatever. And they're still like very humble people and also like family oriented. And they, I think people who are successful and have their values aligned with mine, I think I admire those people the most.
This video isn't sponsored by Mantsinen.
Yes, sorry.
Actually, now when you mention Casey Neistat, I think his video or ad for Nike, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's probably a really good example of hustling. Have you guys seen the video? The Casey Neistat video for Nike? No. Okay, shortly, Nike asked Casey to make some ad, right? And then what he did is took the budget and traveled. So the product was the bracelet, right? Do I remember? Or the watch? Sports bracelet, yes. And what he did with the budget, instead of that, shooting the actual professional ad video, what he did is traveled and shoot it like in vlog style, his adventures. So that's a really good example of hustling because, okay, someone asked you something, then you think, okay, what can I do? Like really enjoying the things I really enjoy. Traveling, cool. I'm gonna travel and I'm gonna shoot something, and that's gonna be the ad video, right? So you take the opportunity and then you utilize that. That's really cool. And actually, that's the thing I like about Casey is that he sees the opportunities and then utilizes them. Like the video about riding a bike in New York when a cop stopped him and he had the fine, $50 fine, and then he was like, "Okay, I got a fine just right now." So he started shooting, and that turned into a video. And the video now has like 10 million views or whatever. So like that's really cool, inspiring at least.
Yeah. When I think about what comes to my mind, if I think like the ideal hustler, I don't want to say this guy's name, but basically I know this guy is like a marketer. He has made it so that all of his businesses or gigs that he kind of does in his either in work or free time, he has been able to put them in those areas that are close to his interests. Like this guy, he basically had spread income. He did music, so gigs, sales and musical instruments. He did coaching. He sold courses. He did marketing, and all of those areas kind of were aligned with his own values, like you told, and with him, honesty was some like very clear to him. So for me, I'm hoping that one day I can do something very similar. So I have like my favorite field, like, or my professional field, then I can combine it with a hobby of mine, and then they would also be aligned with my own values. So they wouldn't like not go, how do you say it? Yeah, like they just go along. So your profession, your hobbies and values, and that could make a very good mix. And of course, enough rest, because like at least I have tendency to sometimes to say yes to too many things, and the hustling kind of takes you, and so on. But so a few questions, and of course, if you have any, just ask. But do you think like so in future, what will your hustling look like? Is it going to change, or are you going to keep doing what you do, or do you have maybe bigger dreams?
I probably will continue the things I do, but the thing that I'm pretty sure, I'm 100% sure about that. The more you do, the more you learn, and the more you can utilize. So, okay, now I know how to build websites. I can do that. Now I know how to build apps, and now I know how to scale that. And every time, the more experience you have, the more opportunities you have to start hustling. And again, I really like the example of yours that you can turn your hobbies also into hustles. Imagine if you make music, and I like making music, and at some point you can just sell your beats, or if you're a DJ, you can start having gigs, and that's really cool. but probably, yeah, continuing doing stuff, but at bigger scale.
I don't know. I didn't know when I started doing the things I do today that I'd be here doing the things that I do. But I've just kept going, doing things that I like with people I like and seeing what happens. And it's carried me this far, so I'm just gonna keep going. And I still solemnly believe that despite wanting to be smart, there's so much that I don't know about the world. So if I just keep going, who knows where I'll end up? Maybe I'll one day be the prime minister.
Very good question, and a very timely question for me at least, because I'm on the brink of starting to write my thesis, and I'm not sure what to do after that. And I think probably my life will be filled with work, writing thesis. That's going to be a hustle in a sense, I think, writing the paper. And I think maybe I have one project in mind. I want to do it, so maybe that one. I will not tell anything about it yet.
Yeah, but about the thesis, actually, that's a really great opportunity to also combine it with the hustle. Speaking about my thesis, so we are developing the app, and I thought that, all right, I have to write a thesis, but what can I write? Or in other words, what kind of research, but basically thesis research, that can support our idea of the app. So that's again, that's an example of how you can utilize. If you are doing marketing, so obviously you want to do this about marketing, and you can think, all right, I want to master that skill, or like I have that project. Can I write about that? Can I research something that can be beneficial for the project I'm doing? In case of the app, I'm going to research the way that you can test your mobile app idea, and like the ways how can you do that? For example, interviewing people. So I'm going to interview people, write about that. That's my thesis, but it also has the actual benefits for the app.
For me, like if I dream about possible side hustles in the future, I was thinking like it would be so cool to kind of be able to do them almost anywhere. So it's not like restricted to doing it in somewhere, like, or in some app or anything. So it allows me to kind of travel. An area that I really wish that I could do is I have gone in, like, how to say, when we have done podcasting with Andrei, I really somehow just like talking a lot about topics or just acting out. And when we shot that one ad with Tovari, we did like a small commercial. I kind of really liked the idea that we have this one day of shooting, and you train before it, you read the script, and when you shoot it, and then there's like an end product. That kind of project is like very satisfying, and I'm looking forward to possibly doing more of those in future. So those kind of things. Yeah, that was the last question. Now, for the audience, so you have gone to known all of us panelists a little bit, and we have Mike there. So would you like to ask any questions from us panelists?
I would like to, first of all, thank you. It's been inspiring to listen to you all speaking about your experiences. I would like to ask non-male hustle that has been inspiring you. Because all the people that you have mentioned so far has been male. So any non-male.
So I have like a fictional and a real person that I know, and maybe I will add a new person, maybe. But basically there was this, well, actually this is actually not fictional person, but I don't know if you know this lady called Anna Lister. she was being made into a Netflix series, and basically she was born in in 90s or so, and basically she was the type of lady who just went against all of the expectations of what a woman should be like, and she took like a big roles and big responsibilities that normally during that time would be only done by male. So basically she ran a business, she owned a business, she collected rent herself. Basically normally a man would do those things, and even though she was a female, she still like did all of these things. And then a real life character that comes to my mind is also a local, so maybe if you know Mimmit Kooda. So Milja Köps is a very close and similar person, that kind of thing. So I think she does really important job to support more females into IT and encourages and helps like the events and courses. They all support women to get into this area, which is maybe a little bit male dominated sometimes, but okay, you can see that thing here. But yeah, for me, these people that are first, and there are possibly more, but these come to my mind.
Yeah, sure. Also can name a few. If we're speaking about young girls, I think, or young hustlers, probably Jenni, one of the closest persons. Like I know personally the woman. Then I also wanted to mention Milja, because yeah, she's a good example of a female hustler. But also, I think my mother, she's not like a real hustler, but the way she thinks, well, she has a really just normal job. She works as a bookkeeper, do accountant, I think is a better word for that. But at some point when she was like, okay, I now have some income, she started thinking, okay, can I maybe buy a flat that I can rent a flat? So she started doing that. And now she was thinking, okay, I can, raising kids is interesting thing. Maybe I can do something with that. And she started doing coaching. And actually, yeah, my mother is my coach right now, helping her with that project. But yeah, my mother, Milja, and probably Jenni.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I have like one global and one local thing that really come to mind. I think the global player, I think Bumble is a business that was founded by, it's an awesome thing that they've been able to do. And then there's also a very local business here. I think she has been a part of the event at some point, but she makes urns, custom-made wooden urns, which I don't think that are made anywhere else in the world, which is very unique. And I, of course, have to give a shout-out to the Prime Minister of Finland, of course. Going from working in a grocery store to being the Prime Minister of this country at an age that I am going to approach very nearby is a sight to behold. Huge shout-out to her.
The first person that came to my mind was my great-grandmother, who was probably not it didn't fit into the traditional meaning of a hustler, but she was like single mom taking care of 3 kids during a war and survived it. And yeah, I think it's a pretty respectable achievement, because I would not exist, obviously, if that didn't happen. And the other one, I don't remember exactly her name, but I think the founder of Canva, the software in which you can design stuff without any training, or it's like very easy to use, the Canva. I think, if I'm not wrong, the founder of that software is a woman, and don't remember her name. And I think she's like from Australia. And I've read somewhere that it was very tough to get financing for that project of hers. She pitched her product to like many people, and she even dedicated to it so much that she traveled to another continent, to USA, to pitch there this thing. And eventually she succeeded, and I think Canva is now quite a popular software. I think. Yeah, thank you for your question.
Okay. Any other possible questions from the audience? Oh, there's a. So.
Hey, what do you think about the toxic version of hustling? For example, there's been a lot of talk about Hustlers University. For example, if you know the case, you know it. If you don't look at it. What do you think about the basically how it affects? There are a lot of young people who are getting a little wrong impression what hustling, for example, is about.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's horrible. I don't like the traditional meaning of what it means to be a hustler. And I don't know, it's not great. But in business, you do have to value money. Even as somebody who attempts to build a society and a business that is fundamentally attempting to change the world, I can't change the world if I'm not self-sufficient. Meaning that my company does need to at least make some money in order to keep going and to kind of finance its own operations. So, but putting understanding where to value money and not it being the only thing you value will probably help you not get drafted into pyramid schemes. Because there's plenty of pyramid schemes going around, including the Hustlers University, even though I think it was taken down recently, I do believe, hopefully.
I was I just want to make sure, I wasn't sure if I heard, but did you say what do you think about how the toxic culture possibly in hustling can affect the younger people, or can you repeat it?
Yeah, basically that.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, kind of agreeing that sometimes hustling kind of takes maybe a little bit. We look too much up to it sometimes, and I feel like sometimes it can become forced, like it should be a bigger role in your life. That nowadays I feel like there might be a little bit higher pressure that, hey, along your studies, in order to be more successful, you have to have some kind of side hustle to, I don't know, in order to maybe possibly get a job, because everybody else has a side hustle too. So that's maybe something that we need to work on, because that also can affect, nowadays the pressure, it affects our mental health. We feel that we have to do it, even though it shouldn't be. I think it should be a luxurious thing that we can do, and there's a possibility to do so if you want to.
Yeah, and I think contrary to popular belief, life's not a competition. You're not in a hurry. You'll most likely live until 80 or 90. So you don't have to succeed in your 20s to enjoy life. It's you can take it easy. Take your time.
I personally haven't witnessed or noticed anything like toxicity in hustling or pressure to start doing projects. You have to make money, you have to do something. But what I have noticed is that because I think it's so much easier than before to start doing something today. You can start a YouTube channel, you can show start doing TikToks, you can turn your studying into a project and then hustle. So the ease of that maybe created the huge opportunities to do that, and that's why maybe more people doing that. Maybe it creates some toxicity, but I haven't personally noticed any.
Okay. Did you have a question? So.
Yeah, I actually had a question for you, Andrei and Jenni. It's about the podcast. I think it's one of the questions I haven't had the opportunity to ask yet, which is at least one of the philosophies that I tend to follow when it comes to what do I end up doing and what will I end up not doing is I want to kind of fail. If I do end up failing, I do want to fail fast and small. But when it comes to starting a podcast together, it takes 3 to 5 years to basically see or even give the project an opportunity to succeed, because the Red Sea of podcasts is full at the moment, at least I'd say. So obviously, not seeing results and having to keep going, how do you deal with the uncertainty of knowing where it's going? Or do you kind of find the value in the project just by doing it? Or are you kind of, is there a goal for where it's going?
Well, yeah. So basically, our podcast Fly for It, we started doing it like 1 year ago with Andrei, and you talked about like how do we deal it if there's like some kind of uncertainty and so on, and we did with Andrei at the beginning of the podcast like some kind of risk analysis of like what are the biggest risks during the producing this podcast, and one of them was like, well, we lose motivation and we want to quit. So that was like one thing, and how we kind of assessed it at that point was that we both agreed with Andrei that, hey, if you feel tomorrow that you don't want to do this, it's okay. So we already showed like a green light to like on the day one that it's okay if we don't want to continue. So, and then we just focused more on, in my opinion, doing parts and focusing on parts that are just make it, how do I say, interesting to us. So we just focused on the process, and we did have some goals on like there, but we also had goals on how to make it fun for us. But what do you think, Andrei? Do you have any?
Yeah, sure, totally agree with you. And also, we did it like we decided that we do, I think it was 3 or 5 test episodes.
Yeah.
And then we was like, okay, if we just wanted to continue, then we continue. But interesting that you said that podcast scene is full, if I understand correctly, because I think it's absolutely empty. Because everyone can have a podcast. Basically, that's your thoughts. It's like you talking to the people, but now you're just listening to his thoughts. Like everyone, like you have Instagram. Everyone can have a podcast, in my opinion, at least. But the main point is that, again, that links to the toxicity of having a hustle, is that I think side hustles should be joy-driven. So you start with what things make you happy, what do you enjoy doing, and then you turn that desire to do something with that into a project. It can be a podcast. And sure, if we have 0 listeners, that's fine for me. If we have 0 money out of it, that's fine for me, because that's what just brings me joy, and I enjoy doing it. And of course, I've learned a ton about like how to do like sound design, how to meet people, how to interview people, whatever. So, yeah. Also, at that point, I might add one more thing, is that, again, that links to that. Again, utilizing what you're already doing is, I think, the easiest way to start doing some side hustles. I have an example, which I think is perfect. Like studying in a business academy, in New Academia, we have to do essays, guys. But what if you can write an essay and then turn that into blog post? And then you have a blog post about that, right? You can publish that on LinkedIn, you can publish that on Medium or other platforms. Now I have a blog post. You can turn that blog post into a screenplay, and then you can shoot a YouTube video out of your blog post, right? Then you have a YouTube video. You can cut that YouTube video into smaller parts. You now have shorts videos or TikTok videos. And then you turn that assignment that you have to do in order to progress in your studies into something that can be really beneficial in your professional career. Because if you publish your essay on a book like that's about leadership or culture or marketing, of course, people like HR is going to notice you. That's really cool. Now you also, if you read the books that you actually enjoy about marketing or whatever, you can also, you enjoy writing this essay, right? So you turn your assignment that you have to do into your side hustle.
Okay. Do we have any more questions, possibly? Okay, there we have.
I got one more. I heard mentioning burnout several times. And if you could give advice to younger version of yourself, like what kind of support or like help you are allowed to get, what that advice would be?
So I remember, if I remember, like 2020, January 14th, I had like this crash. I realized I had a burnout, so I acknowledged it, and I kind of, okay, I had it, and then that was like the downhill. And now I've gotten a little bit better from it. But during that time, I remember like I should have looked more objectively at my calendar. I should have looked more objectively at my calendar and see like, okay, there's a slots. There is for school, there is for like work, hobbies, but where is the part for rest? So if that is missing, you are in trouble in long term. So you can keep stuff for a certain time, but look at your calendar more objectively. And I always think that you should rely on people. Like people around you notice things better than yourself, because many times if you cannot really always look yourself objectively, even though you are very good at handling your own emotions and you're very self-aware. But when you're going through feelings, when you're going through some state, sometimes you just gotta trust people around you. If they start to notice like, hey, things are going too fast with you, should you chill? And if 10 people are starting to say that, I think at that point you should trust them. But what about you guys?
I never had a burnout, but I maybe had something close to it, like last December. I was very tired of work, studying and stuff. And I think for me, what helped is just talking to like everybody, not everybody, but like many people. I told back then that I'm so tired. Like, and then finally, one of them just says like I take 2 weeks off or whatever, and then you just need that mental permission to do it, even though you can do it anyway. But like now, when someone told you, like someone from external source told you that you should take a break, and then you're like, oh yeah, you are right. And I think it can be anybody. For me, it was like my friends and like my sister also. I explained everything to her, like I have this, and I'm just so tired. And she told me, and my friends told me, like, take a break. And eventually I took a break. So I think it can be anybody who is like close to you, who eventually helps with that situation. But I think the most important thing is just like, if you have some kind of a problem, and just tell it to anybody if it's hard to unsolve it.
Yeah. When you look back, or when I look back at my life, I think going into burnout or near burnout was necessary, at least in the situation that I was in, because I'm a stubborn person. So learning from people who are older and wiser than me that I should probably do a little bit less work, or actually like hold those things in life in great value that actually allow you to function is hard to do. I don't like listening to people. I like doing things. And I went to the edge doing things that I loved. And I've continued to do the things that I loved in a way that's healthy and in a way that I understand now after living through it. But I think one of the comments that Kim Väisänen, the last speaker of yesterday, said that you should really get yourself a board of directors who has, especially in organizations, who have authority over you, and when they tell you that you need to take 2 weeks off, you go, and you just listen to them. Because you have to trust that people who've been on this planet for 20 or 30 years longer than you have, that they've learned something along the way, because they have. It's not just them being concerned and doing it out of kindness. They really do, in some cases, care for you.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you for the question, yes.
Yeah, so thank you, panelists and audience.